Hello everybody, Gabby here, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about the Play Pokemon Players Cup that was just announced today. Now, this is a really cool initiative to kind of get some tournaments going, even though we've been forced into an off-season because of the pandemic. But I thought it would be fun to just take a moment, go over the announcement, talk through the announcement, cover rules, cover expectations, and just provide some ideas that I've had about it. Because it is a really good idea, and I am so incredibly excited for it. But, as things go, they're always, constructive criticism is good, and I'd like to just give an honest opinion on it. First things first, if you haven't already, check out the announcement on the Pokemon website. You can find the link down below in the video description. Give it a good read through because it does cover a lot of details. This is going to be a staged tournament. There's going to be a qualifier for the TCG, for the Video Game Championship Series, and for Pokken as well, which is really exciting. All of these qualifiers will happen online. Pokken and the Video Game Championships, I guess the Pokemon video game, do have online service and online competitive battles thanks to Nintendo's online service. So that's how those battles and those, I guess Pokken would be matches will be run through those services throughout the tournament, which is cool. And for the TCG, they're actually running the tournament through the Pokemon Trading Card Game online program. Now, if you haven't downloaded that already, it's free. It's actually a lot of fun, but I only play starter deck format, so you won't be catching me trying to qualify for the Players' Cup anytime soon there. So I think that's awesome. You theoretically, all you need is an internet connection and a computer if you're playing the trading card game that can run the game, or an iPad or a phone, or I think Android tablets can run it as well. So there's a really low bar to entry for this tournament, which is pretty exciting, and I really like that. I think sometimes people get intimidated by attending events IRL, so the fact that you could hypothetically have somebody enter one of these tournaments and win, having never gone to a real tournament, is super cool, and that's something that I'm really hoping for. Both as a commentator who likes to follow those kind of storylines, but also as a fan of the franchise as well. I always love the Cinderella Story personally, not just the Disney movie, so yeah, I'm really excited for that. And it's worth calling out that the winner of this tournament for the trading card game, for the video game, and for Pokken will actually get a travel award to an upcoming international championship, which is really cool. I mean, you could just be sitting in your house and you could get a trip to Brazil or to Australia or to somewhere in Europe or to wherever it's going to be in America. That is amazing, and I cannot wait to follow, those trainers who qualify for those events in that way, because that's going to be really hype, and it's really exciting. From the video game's perspective, though, I do have a couple of things that are going to be interesting to keep an eye on. So, for the Video Game Championships specifically, qualification is being done through the upcoming International Challenge. These are tournaments that are held quarterly on the Battle Stadium. If you haven't tried laddering on Battle Stadium yet, I highly recommend you check it out. It's pretty easy. You just kind of go on and you battle and blah, blah, blah. You do have to link your Nintendo account with your Pokemon Trader Club account, and there are going to be instructions on how to do that, again, down below in the video description, so please do that if you haven't already and you're planning on taking this seriously. But, as you may know, the online Battle Stadium has been having trouble right now. There are currently ways that you can actually disconnect and record wins that, quite frankly, you weren't going to have. And while the Play Pokemon account has called out the fact that they will be disqualifying people with too many disconnects on their record, and I think that's great, I worry that it's going to be really disheartening for the people who aren't, who are affected by those people who decide to disconnect. I think disqualifying rule breakers is the best thing to do. That's really the only thing you can do. But if you're someone who just gets faced with disconnect after disconnect after disconnect, and it doesn't really affect your win-loss record or your ELO ranking, which is supposedly what happens in this flow. I haven't seen it myself, so I think that's just going to be something that you're going to have to keep in mind if you're planning on entering this tournament. You know, treat disconnects as a win. Don't really pay attention to the ELO record in that regard. I also recommend taking some precautions to ensure that you won't disconnect accidentally yourself. Playing over Wi-Fi is always a gamble. You can buy a Ethernet dongle that's like USB to Ethernet for maybe 15-20 bucks off your favorite online retailer. If you're thinking of taking this seriously and you don't have one of those, I'd recommend looking it up and finding one, just so that you minimize the possibility of yourself getting flagged, or I don't know, your internet just deciding that it wants to take a vacation day. I guess maybe your Wi-Fi router deciding that your Wi-Fi router wants to take a vacation day. So you have those precautions. The other thing that I find interesting is the fact that they've set sort of qualification tiers per each rating zone. And the rating zones, interestingly enough, Oceania only has the top 128, whereas North America, Europe, and Latin America will take the top 256 to move on to a double elimination bracket tournament starting in July. I'm curious why Oceania has a smaller number. If you think about it, the double elimination phase of this tournament will have to have some sort of time zone component, so it could be that. When you play in a international challenge, because the tournament runs non-stop for 72 hours, and you have 3 periods within that 72 hours where you unlock 15 battles to play, the time zone you play in doesn't make as much of a difference. Now, I've heard arguments in the past that like playing during Japan hours is a mistake, and you know, maybe if you log on a Saturday morning, you might be more likely to encounter people from the US or Europe who may not be as dedicated to laddering as the Japanese players can be. But at that point, I feel like you're just making like micro optimizations, and you should just focus on your own play and not worry so much about the people that you're going to be playing. But it is curious that Oceania does only have a top 128, and I wonder if that's more of a reflection of how many people actually play in that zone versus North America, Europe, and Latin America. So I'm going to be curious to see, with previous international challenges, you know, you can actually go onto the Pokemon website and see the rankings by rating zone, assuming that you have your Pop ID and that was a tournament you entered. So I'm curious if Oceania really has like that fewer players to justify that kind of cut. I'm also really curious about what the metagame's going to look like for these tournaments. So the qualification round is a best of 1 tournament, which hasn't happened at a large-scale Pokemon event in a very long time. There have been some PCs, Premier Challenges, that have been run best of 1 because of time concerns, or just the TO only has 5 hours to run a tournament. You don't want to be running best of 3. Because that automatically triples the time per round, quite frankly. That's curious to me. I know that in laddering in general, a lot of people like to run, more gimmicks. You try to go for more of the surprise factor than you try to go for consistency. And I'm really curious what people are going to bring to this tournament. Now, looking back at the February International Challenge, Wolf Glick actually won with a Dragapult Colossal, a G-Max Colossal even, a combination that really catches you by surprise if you don't know what it's going to do. But in a best of 3 situation, once that surprise is gone, you could theoretically adapt and maybe try to find a way to stop it. So I want to see what kind of gimmicks people are going to come up with in that regard. I'm curious to see if there's going to be a lot more reliance on status, because I feel like status catching you off guard or flinches or any of that stuff, just like taking away a turn, is more impactful in a best of 1 tournament compared to a best of 3. And personally, I'm going to be approaching my team building with a eye to safeguard and an eye to more consistent speed control to try and, not so much outsmart those strategies, because I don't really think they're necessarily something that's difficult to build around, but you do have to make sure you have the tools available. And a lot of times in a best of 3 tournament prep setting, you don't bring those tools because you assume that there's a 25% chance, for example, that I will get flinched. Over 3 games, the odds of that flinch being critical sort of diminish to 0, whereas in 1 game, it's just 25%. That's it. That's all you got. That is a little bit more of a dice roll, so to speak. I also am really excited to hear more about the Invitational Tournament that they called out. It's kind of buried in the text a little bit, but if you read it very closely, it says each of the Pokemon TCG, Pokken Tournament DX, and Pokemon Sword and Shield competitions will kick off with a special invitational event, where the winners will qualify for the final stage of the Pokemon Players Cup. The IC starts next week. So I'm curious if that means that the IC is going to kick off with that, or if the tournament in July is going to kick off with that. I'm assuming July at this point, because I would hope that an invitational tournament has more than a week to hype itself up. But who knows? I mean, I've certainly seen other esports do more on less time, so, and it's not like there's much else to watch now anyways, so, you know. But yeah, that's sort of my brain dump on this tournament. I am really, really excited for this. I can't stress that enough. I will be streaming all 3 days of the IC over on my own channel on Twitch if that's something you'd like to watch. And because this is taking a step in a different direction, like usually ICs, I try to run something that's balanced between fun and like good. So that way, like, I can be more engaging and I can be like, yay, we're gonna like do our best in this tournament, but we're also going to try and win. I'm gonna treat this tournament with a little bit more, I guess, serious mode. I'm gonna try and give myself a little bit more consistency and a little bit, again, going back to those tools that make best of one more feasible. So I'm not really sure where that'll take me in my team building right now, but I got a week, so we'll see where it goes. And I would love if you guys could all come and hang out with me over on Twitch when I do stream the tournament. So that all being said, you can find the link to that Twitch down below. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. So, you know, leave them in the comments thread. Let's have a good conversation about this. And hey, you know, again, competing in the qualifier is so easy. Not only that, you play one battle, you get a Great Ball Guy shirt. Not in real life in game, but still, that's kind of cool. So if you've ever thought about entering a real Pokemon tournament, but you've never had the opportunity to due to location or maybe, you know, whatever other reason, please consider entering this. You know, I think it's a very good opportunity to get a decent experience with a competitive event from the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas even. And, you know, given the current situation of the world, that's honestly pretty awesome. So I hope that I can see all of you on Twitch when I stream that next week. I hope that I can see all of you competing alongside with me, and we'll just see where this goes. So thank you guys all for watching. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really does help with this whole algorithm thing that YouTube does. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you later.